I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome you all to our commissioners meeting today. All present, rise to the name of I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, is there an approval of the agenda? So we're second. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Hensy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiltie,
Yes.
Chairman Yurvina.
Yes. Any upcoming commissioner absences? All right, any communications? No, I didn't see them. Okay. Looking for an approval of the minutes of the July 11th meeting. So move.
Second. Oh, Chairman Rubin, could we back up? Sorry, I'm actually going to be gone the 8th.
Okay.
So I'll be out of town.
August
Sorry
8th.
about that. Yeah, August 8th. I realize that's the first one.
All right. We don't have a motion that was seconded and approved for the approval of the minutes of July 11th. So roll call vote.
Commissioner Hensy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yeah.
Commissioner Wiltie,
Yes.
Chairman Yurvina.
Yes. And doctors.
Move that we approve accounts payable vouchers 199694 through 199769, payroll vouchers 199677 through 199693, and ACH payroll transfer and wire transfer fees for a grand total of $2,468,413.97 as outlined in the agenda. Second.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Hensy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiltie,
Yes.
Chairman Yurvina.
Yes. All right, that brings us to our local 3390 report. JK, can you report present? No. Okay. Glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Gets us to Chief's report. All right, we're gonna start with Chief Oldenburg.
All right, good evening, commissioners. I just have three quick updates. I just wanted to let you know that we are rapidly approaching the close of 3 current audits that we're undergoing. So we're doing the state annual financial audit. We're doing a single point audit for the 750,000. And we've got a post-SAFER, our 2018 SAFER grant, post-compliance audit that we're closing out as well. So we should be hearing back from all 3 of those within the next week or 2. And we got notified this morning that we will be undergoing a GEMT audit for our ambulance compensation, which is just another standard type audit, but lots of work there. But we're closing out on the 3 and just starting on our 4th one. And so I'll give you some more updates on that. Probably next meeting, we should have a number of those completed and we'll move back. Also next month, I wanted to let you know that on August 8th, we'll do our mid-year financial report. So it's completed. It was finished in the last couple of days, and we're hoping to hold off. And by the time we present it on August 8th, we should incorporate our state audit findings with that as well. So we'll bring all of that forward at the same time. And then the last issue, again, I wanted to give you an update on the local financing, the local reimbursement plan for the state, which we're going to use to purchase our SCBA's. We're supposed to hear back by the 28th. We haven't heard yet, so they have a couple of 2 or 3 days. And then we will start crafting the resolutions that will come before you to authorize that expenditure or for us to use those bond funds. And so we anticipate that that will come next month as well. So we're on timeline for everything and everything's looking great. So
All the audits, is it just normal timing or is there anything?
it's just it's normal timing. We asked to be first in the pipeline for the audit, actually with the state. Crystal did, she likes to get that done sooner than later. That allows us to move through some other things, but we jumped on the front of that train.
Chief Meyer. Good evening, commissioners. Got a few updates for you. The EMS division. The EMS division has been working on with local law enforcement, county and the city of New Harbor on updating our mental health transport and protocols of how we interact with law enforcement concerning those type of events or incidents. And kind of lack of better words, how do we support each other when we go on these calls? Our safety for not only the law enforcement, but us but also how do we work through some of these gray areas? So Mike Dumas, Chief Dumas has been working with county and the city of New Harbor on those type of issues. So thank you for Mike on that work. The training division, last week, we hosted the special operations team from Kitsap County. So the training division, Chief Corrigan and his staff hosted that special operations team. And then also in August and September, we'll be hosting Tacoma Fire for their trench rescue updates. And we'll be doing that at various dates in August and September. Also too, last weekend this morning, even though I had technical difficulties, was sat in on a radio operations meeting at South Sound 911, more specifically about going to one system, how the 700 and the 800 system communicates with each other. I believe Commissioner Wilson was there this morning also. But just giving input about how that affects operation long-term. And the biggest thing for me is how do we not lose capabilities when we go to some of these new radio systems? Our radios are great radios and they function over their tri-band radios, and we don't want to lose those capabilities. So, sitting in on those committees is a good piece of work for us to be involved in, especially when we use the 700 system. You know, we're one of the major players on the 700 system. Promotional process, the announcement is out. So a lot of people are studying for that fall process. So a lot of activity in the stations and a lot of things going on. So that's great to give our folks those opportunities. Also too, completed some work in the Pacific Northwest on a structure protection plans. Trying to create common operating pictures between Oregon and Washington and all the incident management teams between all the jurisdictions in the state of Washington. So Lisa has assisted with that, creating those plans and just trying to make sure everybody's on the same page. So a lot of work going into that. So it's been a project of mine trying to get everybody on the same page. So we just completed that work. We got a draft out to everybody and getting some good feedback on that. Last week, run card package changes went into effect for South Sound 911. So we've been talking about this for a while now, but our phase 1 went into effect. So we're right sizing some packages, lack of better words, we're sending some less resources to things and trying to put apparatus and resources in service as best we can. Also too, we are going to be pending some lower acuity calls. So rather than bringing an engine company in from West Pierce or an engine company in Kitsap County to handle a tree across a roadway or a tree into a power lines, we're going to pen those type of calls, some automatic fire alarms for when a District 5 unit comes in service. So that's something that we necessarily haven't done in the past. So that's something new for our culture, but trying to reduce the reliance on our mutual aid partners when they're just as busy as we are, or probably more busy than we are. So we're doing some of that activity. And then last week, I met with the Assistant Chief of Operations from South Kitsap, Chief Goodwin, and just had a good conversation about our operations between us and South Kitsap when our two, and Chief Doan's been talking about this for a while, is the two dispatch centers coming on board rather than a phone call coming on computers, so our CAD and CAD system can talk. So not only with the hardware side of the house is improving, but we're just always having those conversations about relationships and how we're going to respond on that invisible line that is just north of us. So unless there's any questions, that's an update from me. Yes, sir.
On your first time in regards to getting together with BDs and stuff in regards to dealing with the mental health calls and stuff, does that also take in overdoses, substance, people that we may go into with substance abuse and having issues? Why I bring that up is that I saw a post in my old department in Prosser, and where they dealt with a person that was OD, basically dead, but CPR and 2 cans of Narcan brought him back. And of course, like a lot of people in that situation, they're upset because they lost their high and became combative and assaulted both the police and the fire. So, well, it's not, I guess it probably could fall under mental health, but just, you know, where it's so close there, if that's part of the deal too, to where those kind of situations are dangerous, those can be to both fire and police personnel also. So that is kind of covered in what you're talking about there.
Yeah, I think when you look at this, this particular talks to mental health and how we interact with some of those calls that, what are we gonna do with them? But yes, it also covers this, these type of calls. And actually, it covers any time we interact with law enforcement. I'm really pleased, and it's not because of me, it's because of the gentlemen and ladies that are out on the street, is the interaction between law enforcement out here, between the county, Gig Harbor PD and us, is a great relationship. And we just wanted to continue to meet and foster that relationship, and just making sure that all of our protocols match theirs as much as they can match ours. So that's what that is about. Yeah. And included in there is the overdoses and how we react and respond to it.
Dave Black. Wonderful, good evening. So just a couple quick updates from me as well. We have been working with the city of Tacoma, and specifically towards adding a radio tower to our fire station at 53. It's been determined through a number of radio meetings that Chief Wilsey and I and others have been a part of that. A radio tower at 53 would help both the city of Tacoma and also us on our radio system as well. So consultants have been out, looked at it. They came back with a few hurdles to overcome. The biggest hurdle is the FAA. They're a little concerned with the height of the tower at that station in regards to our airport. So we're working on that, seeing what we can do with that. We still believe it's a very positive thing for all of us, and but we'll see how the FAA decides to work with us or not. So more to follow on that. September 11th is coming up. Gig Harbor Fire has been blessed to have our piece of steel and a great monument set up for that. So Monday, September 11th at 9 a.m. We will be having a ceremony and recognition for that and that time that happened in our history. We're also excited to be bringing back our annual banquet. Some of you may remember that from years gone by, and so we're looking forward to that. We're looking to have that in March of next year, and so a little ways out, but we want to do that well and kick that back off again and have the opportunity to be together. Yeah, so we're bringing the banquet back. And then just lastly, as a little follow-up, our engine spec committee has been doing great work, and we're looking forward to, of course, passing the levy next week, and shortly after that, with our bond money and resources we have, we're looking forward to getting in line and ordering some engines and hopefully seeing them within a couple of years. End of report.
Along with the levy, last night I attended the Gig Harbor City Council meeting where they passed a resolution unanimous endorsing and supporting our levy. So we appreciate the mayor and council for their support. They'll said great things and passed that unanimous last night. I'm also going out, Chief Oldenburg's going with me to Fox Island tomorrow morning at Station 53 at 10 o'clock. Some citizens from Fox Island have called me and want to talk about the levy. So I just said, why don't we meet at the station? And they said they wanted to bring some more people. So we're gonna do a information session at Station 53 at 10 o'clock tomorrow. We're still prepping for our mediation that I told you is on Friday, August 11th. Saturday, August 12th, I will be attending the FICROS fair. Or is it FICRA? Yeah, I got FICRA. They're having a fair out there on Saturday, so I'm gonna go out there to it. They have some emergency preparedness booth and just be involved in that on Saturday the 12th. Thursday is our county chiefs meeting. I've discussed with you about some concerns we have with the EMS. I think it's going to come to a head Thursday. As chiefs, we're going to make a decision on what we're going to do together and united. And we'll come out of that meeting Thursday of what direction we need to do to try to streamline some of our EMS processes. Last but not least, we, as a command staff, would like to have a discussion and maybe bring a resolution later in the year, but at least start the discussion to change our post-retirement medical benefit and move it up a little bit rather than October to August to help us with budgeting. Not knowing till August or October hurts us when we've already got many of the budget things done. So we didn't want to do it. We didn't want to ask you for that this year because we didn't want to impact any employees that are on their decisions. But I just wanted to start the conversation, and maybe this year we could do a resolution to move the date up to August 1st to help us with planning for retirements. So that's more just FYI and for discussion. We've got lots of time, but it's something that we need to have that discussion with the union and the members and yourself. See if there's any problem to move it up a couple months. Help us with planning. That is all I have for chief report.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief. Any standing committee reports? Seeing none. That brings us to item 10 of the agenda, finance report. Crystal?
Okay, so for the purposes of today, we'll do the high level version of the June financial report, and then we'll come back at the next commissioners meetings for the mid-year update where we'll go in a little more detail. So for the purposes of this one, we have our operating revenue. Here, taxes typical for this time period. Intergovernmental units might be a little bit higher. This is our annual payment that we receive from the Healthcare Authority for GEMT. So that has been collected this month of June. Charges for service are typical. Our other and non-revenue section, you'll notice, are looking high from a percent over budget. This is our investment interest. So at the time of the budget process, we did not know that investment interest would be as high as it is in 2023. Moving into our operating expenses, we're actually looking pretty typical for the month of June. Salary and benefits are at 47. This is pretty typical. We see our salary and benefits expenditures go a little high in the summer as individuals are moving and having vacations and time off and wild immobilizations. So this is pretty typical for us. Everything else from operating expenses look as expected. Moving into the expenses by division, same thing, everything looks pretty typical here. Legislative looks a little light. This is mostly because we'll have our election costs come in at the later part of the year. Finance and admin, we have a couple contracts that will come in towards the second part of the year. Moving into the capital fund, not a lot of movement here. I would say our June expenditures are pretty similar to May. This is mostly that pre-design and the architectural work. And then moving into our ending cash, I would say our general expense looks a little high, but this is pretty typical in the middle of the year. This is where we'll be actually using that excess cash for our property tax collections that show up in October. So for these next couple of months, we'll be using those reserves to fund our expenses until property tax collections show up in that late October timeframe. And that's all I have for the June, unless you guys have any questions.
No questions.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Crystal. Gives us to the chairman's report. I have nothing for this evening. 2022 bond update.
Right, Chief Johnson is homesick today, so I get to deliver the update today. The plans for the training campus, let's start with training campus, are at the county. We're working through any questions that come from that review. The county has requested information for the initial design work on the training campus from 1996, where we're working on that. There's a water extension agreement And that paperwork is complete. It's at the city of Gig Harbor and it's on the city council's work session for next week. So I asked Chief Johnson to be there for that work session. Will be. We'll be completing a page-by-page review of both the training tower and the training support building next Thursday with Bryce Fergus Miller, the training division, and all the engineers that contributed will all be there as we won't be there, but as the department and the engineers go through everything page by page to make sure that it's all what we need. 53 and 57, the plans are still at Pierce County for permitting. Working through the questions, but nothing significant there or significant progress. Station 51, we're starting that design. We put together a station design committee that was formed. It's myself, Chief Johnson, Lieutenant Jorgensen, Lieutenant Phillips, and paramedic firefighter Apps is the committee. We have completed an initial meeting with Bryce Fergus Miller and myself. And last week, AC Johnson took representatives from Bryce Fergus Miller on a tour of Gig Harbor, just to have a look at the newer structures and get a feel of the community, looking at the school buildings, looking at City Hall, just driving around our community, make sure that Station 51 design fits within our community. So they did that last week. And then we have a scheduled meeting of the committee next Monday afternoon to look at the building and just start with the initial layout and all the programs that we'll have within that. So that'll be next Monday. That's all I've got.
Any questions? See anything, Chief? Don't see any old business, new business, WSRD report. Chief Black.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna pass out just a few handouts. I had a little bit of technical difficulty, so we'll have it on the screen. But if you do want to take a few notes, or some of it is a little bit tough to see, so if you click on that, but thank you for your do that. Great, so just a little bit of a background. Every 5 years, fire departments in the state of Washington need to go through Washington survey and rating process. Our last one was done in 2018, so 2023 was our year to do that again. And so I'm just going to give you a high-level overview of the last 6 months that I've been working with those folks. And overall, it was a very positive experience. So we'll turn to the first page. I just wanted to kind of share with you those things that the survey and rating looks at a fire department. Water supply is 35% of the rating. Fire department itself is 40%. Emergency communications, 9%. Fire safety control, which is like prevention, different things like that, makes up 16% of that. So if we move to the next page, our previous rating in 2018 in the city of Gig Harbor was a 4, and in Pierce County was a 5. And so now in 2023, if we move into the next page, our rating in the city stayed a 4, and but I am excited to say that our rating in Pierce County also moved to a 4. And so a lot of that is due to growth. A lot of that is due to increased staffing, 3-man engine companies, continuing to improve training, a number of different things that have helped us with that. Now, there is a little caveat to that, is that we're a 4 in the county where we have hydrants. We're a 5 in the county in areas where we don't have hydrants. And then we are also a 9, which is the lowest rating in areas where we do not serve, we're greater than 5 miles away by roadway to a particular area. And that's gonna be a little more clear as we turn the page. And sir.
Is this a new way of doing it? I'm speaking about the Survey and Ratings Bureau. I don't recall them coming in the past when we've done it. The 4, 5, and 9 breakdown. It's always been like here, Pierce County 5. Is this something new?
It actually wasn't new, and we were that way before. It just doesn't appear like we have ever explained it that way.
Oh, okay.
So we have been that, when I went back and talked to them in 2018, we were a 5, 6, and a 9.
Gotcha. And you're right, that's a new one on there.
Sure. So trying to be as accurate as we can because it has an impact on our citizens in that way. So this one, this next slide is just gives us a bit of an overview. It's a little bit busy, but let me just kind of walk our way through it. So it shows our fire stations. It shows our staff fire stations of stations 1, 2, 6, 8, and 9. It does also show stations 57 and 53, and just for the purposes of understanding. So with stations 53 and 57 are closed, you can see that there's areas in those two up north and south of Fox Island that are in orange. And so that indicates that those ratings are a 9. And so they're the lowest rating available. Ratings 4, again, it's a little hard to see, but where we have a crosshatch means that we are a 4 because we have water systems and we're well covered within that 5-mile area. The solid yellow, we start to get out into the fringe area that makes sense. That's where we're a 5 because we don't have fire hydrants. But a nice thing for us, we would actually be a 6, but we are given a tender credit. Because of our tenders and the amount of water that we carry on our fire engines, we then kind of create our own water supply and we do get credit for that. And so we work hard to keep that credit. And then you can see then where the orange is a 9, and that is due to those kind of far reaches of our department where we don't quite have the coverage yet for that. And this is definitely a change for our citizens. In 2018, we still had some volunteer firefighters that were able to meet the demand of WSRB. If you have 6 volunteer firefighters, that counts as staffing to that station. And so, but unfortunately, volunteerism, as we have seen previously, is on the decline, and there's not too many ways to overcome that. The ways that we can overcome that is what we're doing, which is continuing to move forward and trying to staff these stations as appropriate. It was a little bit disappointing to me that WSRB gives us no credit for partially staffing the station because we're staffing 53 upwards of 30 to 40% of the time, but we get 0 credit for that. So we're working towards all of that. So we wanted to be very accurate with our WSRB and give them accurate data and get accurate data back. So we are seeing with our map where our southern part of Fox Island, and I have taken 2 phone calls so far from residents that have heard from their insurance companies that have said, we're going to have to raise your rates because you're a 9. And so not all insurance companies does use WSRB or incorporate as much as, give it as much weight. So everybody's kind of got their own process for figuring that out. But a couple of people have called to say that they were disappointed in that. And we've tried to support them as we can and provide information that we are moving in that direction as we can. So any kind of questions kind of on where we're at today with regards to that? Wonderful. Next page is, so what we did now is just a little bit about continuous improvement, wanting to continue to move forward and what we can be doing over the next 5 years as a way to help support this rating. More importantly, as a way to help to support the department and our community, but tagging these 2 together where we can. And one of the things we looked at is beginning to do a little bit more work with water supply, testing our water supply more. Actually, not us testing it, but getting the people that own the water systems to test them more often, which would give us a better understanding of actual flow that comes out of a fire hydrant. That is, like I said, 35% of what WSRB looks for. In emergency communications, there's not much we can do there. It's a small number and we actually get almost 100% credit for that. because of the new work that's been done with South Sound 911 and upgrading that system. Fire safety control, this is really prevention. We did talk about, Gig Harbor Fire has some amazing prevention programs. We're out in schools, we're doing great work. But unfortunately for WSRB, none of that matters because it's not fire specific related. And so we're talking with Chief Booth about maybe we can incorporate some things, talking about wildland programs, maybe some senior citizen fire prevention programs, doing a bit more pre-fire planning by our crews. It has to be very specific to reducing fires themselves. So we're kind of taking a look at that, seeing where some of that may or may not fit. Okay, next page. Fire department itself function is 40%, and this is where between 2018 and 2023, we really made the most growth. We lost a little bit because we didn't get volunteer credits anymore, but with our increased staffing that's happened over the last 5 years and the work that we've done in our training division, that's really what took us from a 6 to a 5 to a 4. And so excited about that. Just a few things that we're looking at. Eventually opening station 53 will again improve that rating, not only for the purposes of supporting Fox Island better, but the more people we have on available, then the more rating our rating gets better. One of the things that was interesting to recognize is that we have 9 fire stations, and by having them all be considered fire stations, we don't have a big enough command staff to oversee 9 fire stations. In WSRB's eyes, if you have 7 fire stations or more, if you have 7 fire stations or less, then you will have 1 BC battalion chief to cover that. If you have over 7 fire stations, you must have 2 battalion chiefs on duty. But we're not there yet. We really have 5 fire stations, hopefully 6 with Fox Island in the very near future. So we took a significant hit by not being properly command staffed for the amount of fire station buildings we have, which is a little bit of a unique conversation because we have the buildings, but they're not staff stations. And we take a significant hit for not having personnel in those stations. So we haven't made any changes yet, but we are looking to possibly recategorize those buildings into more of an administrative building until the time that we can actually staff them and make them true fire stations and get proper credit for them and reduce the amount of reduction in credit that we get for them. So more work to come on that, but we're taking a look at that. And then another area that we're going to do is we can increase some certifications for our mechanics that will help us, and a few easy things that will help us along the way. Next page and last page, again, a little bit more. This is one that I'm super excited about. One of the areas that fire departments struggle with is getting appropriate training and actually getting appropriate training in a training tower, because there are not very many of them and they're hard to get to. So for us, we're moving in a great direction, and that once our training tower is built, we will be able to document the training that our people will get at an actual training center. And that will be a big boost for us in regards to WSRB and really just in general for how our people will be trained up moving forward to serve our community. So I feel like I flew through that pretty good, but at the end, we're reviewing these changes and kind of determining where the growth of Gig Harbor is going and how some of WSRB might fall into place with that. Any questions that I can support?
Great question. So it sounds like if we eventually long-term staff 53 and 57, that'll mitigate the vast majority of the orange areas in the map. It looks like in the heat map, kind of more towards Raft Island, Copachuck, there's some really small orange areas, but I mean, relative,
Yes,
those are quite small compared to Fox Island.
exactly. And from a demographic standpoint on that map, there is certainly there's many more residences on the south of Fox Island than there are up north in that 5-7 area, just by the density that goes along with that. Not that we don't want to eventually support them as well, but there are far fewer homes, usually larger parcels of land up in that area. It's still somewhat underdeveloped.
What ways can we kind of as a long-term goal, go from like a 4 to a 3? Is that possible, or is it realistic for us to accomplish that?
It's a great question. So the 4 to 3 has kind of a large range in it. And so we were able to drop to the top of the 4. So we've got quite a ways to go to get to where we can get to a 3. It's definitely possible. And with all the things that we are doing, if we can staff 53, we reconfigure the naming of some of our other buildings. We get our training tower, we start getting our documentation. The majority of that work we can do from the fire department standpoint, which is really where we have the most control. The prevention side as well, incorporating a few programs, thinking that the water purveyors and the water suppliers are going to do their part. That's not realistic, but we can definitely I believe we can get there.
And then one last question. If at some point, let's say, I think we all kind of are on the track of when we have the resources to staff another station, it's going to be 53. When that is, we don't know. But let's say that's mid-cycle between ratings.
Yep.
Do you then notify the Bureau and then they say, okay, great, we're gonna, even though it's mid-cycle, we're gonna change that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, they absolutely will change that, notify everyone and participate in this with them.
Do you know if the insurance companies would be so generous, or will they?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Be annual for that.
Yes, Tom.
Did the Ratings Bureau take in, we've got an issue out here with a lot of private bridges. Some are 15 feet, some are longer than that. Route Island is private, and even the 53 is open. There's a bridge sitting there that something catastrophic could happen. Point being, do they even think about or consider the bridges we would have to deal with?
They do that. Not in the review that I was a part of. So roadway access, that was not a part of any of the work that we did. I asked a little bit about that. And they don't factor that in.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yes, for sure.
At a high level, we need to take WSRB with a grain of salt, what it is, right? I've seen some departments let the tail wag the dog, meaning they're trying to make this, really reduce it. It's important. Don't hear what I'm not saying. At the same time, WSRB uses 1970s process and review, frankly. And insurance companies, not all of them use it, only some do. And some of these people, the insurance companies use WSRB. My advice to them was go get a different insurance company. Because every insurance company uses a different thing to set their rates. Some are more of a regional standard, some use WSRB, some literally how far is a fire hydrant from your house? Okay, you get a rating on that. How far is a fire station? So it's not a clear standard. So what I'm trying to say is this is important. This is another look at our department. And we should continue to try to do it, but we also shouldn't let the tail wag the dog and try to do too much. Because I hope I'm being clear, it's important. But at the same time, let's not let it drive our operations. Let's do our plans the way we have them. It does highlight good things that we need to do. We knew we needed the 53 and 57 a weakness. So it's good, but I don't ever want to get to the point where WSRB is dictating what we do, especially when their evaluation isn't current standards. Hope that makes sense.
And I think we also have to keep in mind, just because it says Washington on it, this is not a state agency. It's for insurance companies, by insurance companies.
That became very clear early on. Yes.
Any other questions for Chief Black?
I want to thank Chief for doing this too. A lot of work. Some frustration. And to be frank, we even thought about just not even doing it. Well, but then we quickly realized we needed to, and for our citizens, we should, and it's a good view. And but it's only one piece of the pie. Yeah.
Thank you, Chief Black. Not seeing any further new business, so it's time for open public comment. Have you state your name for the record and you'll have 3 minutes. Is there anyone online that would like to comment? Seeing none. All right, any good of the order?
That's a quick question for Jason. With this potential UPS strike, is that going to affect your audio, video equipment that's still in the pipeline somewhere?
It seems like everything is affecting my audio video project from anything and everything. So I suspect we're all gonna probably feel the UPS strike in some way or the other.
They resolved it today.
Did they resolve it?
Yeah, they reached an agreement today.
Oh,
Did they?
Yeah.
So no, it won't.
So no.
that won't.
Never mind.
Thank you.
All right. Any special interest upcoming events? All right, move to adjourn the meeting. Next regular meeting will be held on August 8th at 5 p.m. Thank you everyone for being here.
My son-in-law can breathe now because.